Hi, it's Patrick Hutzel from IntensiveCareHotline.com, where we instantly improve the lives for families of critically ill patients in intensive care so that you can make informed decisions, have peace of mind, real power, real control, and so that you can influence decision making fast, even if you're not a doctor or a nurse in intensive care. This is another episode of Your Questions Answered. And in last week's episode, I answered another question from one of our readers. And the question last week was part 9 of my 57-year-old dad has been in intensive care with cardiomyopathy and pneumonia for 5 weeks. He's still in an induced coma and still doesn't have a tracheostomy. Help. You can check out last week's questions by clicking on the link below this video. In this week's episode of Your Questions Answered, I want to answer the next question from our reader Gary, and the question this week is part 10 of my 57-year-old dad has been in intensive care with cardiomyopathy and pneumonia for 5 weeks. He's still in an induced coma and still doesn't have a tracheostomy. This series of questions from Gary are excerpts from numerous one-on-one phone and email counseling and consulting sessions with me over a 2-month period. You can access previous questions from Gary part 1 to part 9, again if you're clicking on the links below this video in the written version of this blog. Gary and his family and his dad, of course, went through many challenges while his dad was in intensive care, and I felt very privileged helping Gary through this difficult time in his and his dad's life. If you have followed this series of questions, you would have seen that by now Gary's dad's situation was getting more and more desperate as the ICU really let them down from the start. By the time Gary got my help, it was almost too late because his dad had been mistreated for too long and the ICU was reluctant to seek outside help, let alone admit that they have mistreated Gary's dad. This story and this series of questions really serves as a warning to anybody who has a loved one in intensive care, and it really shows that you can't afford of not doing your own research. Not doing your own research when your loved one is critically ill in intensive care could well prove fatal, in fact. If you're in doubt if your loved one is getting the best possible treatment that they could possibly have, please contact us, send us an email to support@intensivecarehotline.com, or simply give us a call on one of the numbers that you can see on top of the website. So, Gary writes, "Hi Patrick, thanks for your time again today over the phone. I need to give you a quick update since we've spoken. I tried to get my dad's medical records after our phone call. Apparently I can't get the medical records while he's still an inpatient. It's just one uphill battle after another. I'm going to try and talk to the medical director of the hospital. Still can't make contact with his cardiologist. They're all hiding. I've attached a photo of his monitors in ICU. Sorry about the awkward angle, but I didn't want to make it obvious that I was taking it. Not that it will tell you much. At least my dad's infection markers are down again today, and his liver function and kidney function tests show slight improvements, though it's still high. He's on 0 sedation for now, only on 2 milligrams of morphine an hour. He's on 16 micrograms of noradrenaline. He's still on strong antibiotics for the sepsis. They are offering little hope, but seem to be treating him medically. The DNR, or do not resuscitate order, is still on my dad's file. That's all for now from Gary." So here's my response. Hi, Gary. I can see in the picture that all his vital signs are stable. That's good. Keep in mind, though, that this is on high doses of inotropes, such as the noradrenaline. Whatever happens at the moment in terms of how they have treated your dad and you in the process, you have only little control over, but how you react, you have 100% control. I do really believe that they have let you and your dad down from the start by not doing all the right things to begin with. They haven't done the tracheostomy early on, and they haven't referred your dad to a proper ICU who has all the equipment, skills, know-how, and right attitude that would have maximized chances for your dad's survival. For now, stay strong and positive no matter what. This experience will make you a better and also stronger person. I do think you are doing remarkably well given this extraordinary challenge the universe is putting you through here. So therefore, give yourself a pat on your back, Gary. Not many people would be as level-headed as you are. Of course, they're trying to slam all doors because they realize you are not taking no for an answer and you are quite persistent. So, well done. You are indeed your dad's best advocate. Again, I doubt that you can't access your dad's medical records while he's still an inpatient. Doesn't make any sense to me, and other clients of ours have requested medical records during their loved one's stay in intensive care. And all of those clients that we work with can get access to the medical notes at any given time. Of course, the hospital might say that they won't give you access, but it's usually just an obstacle they want to put in front of you to make your life even more difficult, and that's all. Usually, if you put things in writing that you want access to the medical records, and more importantly, put it in writing with a deadline, for example, that you want the medical records by tomorrow at 3 p.m., it usually speeds up the process, as they know you're serious and they know that they can't deny you that request. So again, Gary, don't take no for an answer. You can get access to the medical records under the Freedom of Information Act. There's plenty of information online that confirms that you, as your dad's medical power of attorney and next of kin, can get access to the medical records at any given time. From my perspective, they are just making it more and more difficult for you. What a nightmare. It's also a sign that they have things to hide, Gary, and again, besides not referring your dad to another ICU, given that they haven't done a tracheostomy for nearly 5 weeks, shines another very negative light on things. Contacting the medical director of the hospital is definitely something you should be doing. But I also believe you should be trying some patient advocacy groups, and again, I put some links in the email. I can only imagine how frustrated and disappointed you must be by this whole experience, and I believe that you still shouldn't give up. Whilst things look pretty grim from a medical point of view, I believe you owe it to yourself and your dad to get to the bottom of things. The more I think about it, I still strongly believe they have no or little insight into treating cardiomyopathy with ECMO, ventricular assist device, heart transplant, and I believe they simply don't know what they don't know. I'm also certain that by now the medical director of the hospital as well as the cardiologist know that you want and demand answers, and they'll be on high alert. Therefore, I wouldn't expect too much, but you still should try. From a medical perspective, yes, things don't look too good. 16 micrograms of noradrenaline is a substantial dose, and as long as it doesn't go above 30 micrograms, there is still hope. It's clear to me that they are not prepared to look after the most sickest patients, given that they can't or don't want to offer dialysis. Therefore, it shows lack of skills and experience, but it also shows lack of compassion. Back to square one, which is why your dad should have been referred on to another ICU very early on in his admission. They will need to continue treating him medically until the end, or until he might get better, even though his chances for improvement by now appear to be diminished. That's what they owe you and your dad at the bare minimum. Just make sure your dad isn't suffering, and as long as he's comfortable with 2 milligrams an hour of morphine, that's all he needs. You should still challenge the DNR, the Do Not Resuscitate order. And it simply goes like this, Gary. Intensive care units think that they can play God and decide who's going to live and who's going to die. One way to put their authority on this is to issue a DNR, a Do Not Resuscitate, or an NFR, Not for Resuscitation order on file. We have discussed how you can go about getting them to take it away, because they are breaching their own hospital and ICU policy by not getting your consent. They haven't even counseled you on it. If your dad's heart was to stop and they're not going to resuscitate him, from my perspective, that's called murder, especially since you haven't agreed to the DNR, or Do Not Resuscitate order. It's also often against the law and quite simply illegal what they are doing. Again, Gary, please put things in writing to the hospital so that they can't ignore your pleas. You should also again check out the 5 things you need to know if the medical team in intensive care wants to limit treatment or withdraw life support, or issue a DNR, Do Not Resuscitate, or NFR, Not for Resuscitation order. Because it's simply a manual how you can reverse a DNR, or Do Not Resuscitate order, and I put a link to this resource. I'm very happy, of course, Gary, to review some of your dad's medical notes once you have access to them. And any questions in the meantime, please let me know. My phone is always on. So, how can you become the best advocate for your critically ill loved one, make informed decisions, get peace of mind, control, power and influence quickly whilst your loved one is critically ill in intensive care? You get to that all-important feeling of making informed decisions, get peace of mind, control, power and influence when you download your free instant impact report now by entering your email below. In your free instant impact report, you learn quickly how to make informed decisions, get peace of mind, real power and real control, and how you can influence decision making fast whilst your loved one is critically ill in intensive care. Your free instant impact report gives you in-depth insight that you must know whilst your loved one is critically ill or is even dying in intensive care. Sign up and download your free instant impact report now by entering your email below. In your free instant impact report, you learn how to speak the secret intensive care language so that the doctors and the nurses know straight away that you are an insider and that you know and understand what's really happening in intensive care. In your free report, you will also discover how to ask the doctors and the nurses the right questions, discover the many competing interests in intensive care, and how your critically ill loved one's treatment may depend on those competing interests. How to eliminate fear, frustration, stress, struggle, and vulnerability, even if your loved one is dying. You get 5 mind-blowing tips and strategies helping you to get on the right path to making informed decisions, get peace of mind, control, power, and influence in your situation. You'll get real-world examples that you can easily adapt to your and your critically ill loved one's situation. How to stop being intimidated by the intensive care team and how you will be seen as equals. You'll get crucial behind-the-scenes insight so that you know and understand what's really happening in intensive care and how you need to manage doctors and nurses in intensive care, and it's not what you think. Thank you for tuning into this week's Your Questions Answered episode, and I'll see you again next week in another update. Make sure you also check out our blog section for more tips and strategies, or simply send me an email to support@intensivecarehotline.com with your questions. Or you can call me, find international phone numbers on our contacts tab. Also, check out our ebook section, where you get more ebooks, videos and audio recordings, and where you can also get one-on-one counseling and consulting with me via Skype, over the phone or via email by clicking on the products tab. This is Patrick Hutzel from intensivecarehotline.com, and I'll see you again next week with another update.